All right, looks like we're recording.
I believe so. Yep.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. All right, welcome everybody to Public Safety Meeting, December 2nd, 2021. We'll start with Michelle, if you call the roll.
Good evening, everybody. So we have Marshall Scott Collier,
Yes.
Board Member Christopher Preston,
Here.
and Board Member Vince Loyal. Council Member Liaison Dave Bertolino,
Here.
and Police Liaison Captain Jim Mundell.
Here.
It looks like we are missing a representative from Metro Fire District today.
Yes, and he did let me know he was unable to make it to this meeting. John Bradley would not be available.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, moving on. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Since that, Vince? You're on mute.
I would make a motion to approve with the only change that I think roll call was taken at 5:30, not at 6:30 on the minutes.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to approve with a technical amendment. Are there any objections to the motion? Chris?
Nope. Oh, no objections.
You're probably seconding, that's good.
Yeah.
Without objection, we'll accept the minutes. Any objections? No? All right. The minutes are accepted. Okay. Now we have time for public comment. I understand we do have several people in the queue. So, yes, Vince?
Just, if I may be the first, I'd like to express condolences of myself and my family to Captain Mundell and the entire St. Louis County Police Department for the loss of their officer yesterday. I know it's a tragedy, and I think that loss is felt across the entire community as well as Wildwood specifically. So our thoughts and prayers are with you guys.
I appreciate that, Vince. With our officers that move around the department, you know, we have officers here in Wildwood that work with Officer Valentine, so there's a ripple effect for sure that we certainly feel it out here, you know, as a close contact. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Vince.
Mm-hmm.
So, Rick, Steve, I don't know if we have an order of appearance, but.
Well, I see Mr. Van Eck has got his hand raised. I think he may
Sure.
have been the first.
Okay.
If you want to go that route, I can promote him over, and then he'll have his 5 minutes to make his comments.
Sure, absolutely.
Before you promote him, Mr. Collier, if you would, maybe just a brief statement for all folks that, in terms of what the guidelines are. No profanity, be respectful, 5-minute time limit. We'll let them know when their time limit is getting close and so forth, just to make sure that you've set the ground rules for each and every one of them.
So noted. Thank you.
I think Mr. Van Eck is coming over right now, so if he wants to unmute and speak, that would be fine.
Video.
Welcome, Mr. Vanek.
You okay, you hear me?
Yes.
Please hear me. Okay, good. Oh, there I am.
Oh, there you are.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank the residents of Vintage Grove because they are very passionate about the crosswalk safety issue south of Ridge Road. And without their passion, all of this might not have been possible. Getting a quick reaction from the county council to proceed with improvements necessary to dramatically, hopefully dramatically improve the safety of the crosswalk where my son got hit. I want to urge everyone listening, the residents who utilize Old State every day, the residents who live next to Old State, that this is a long-term process, that just because we maybe solve this crosswalk issue in the short term, that there is numerous significant safety issues with Old State, and that the rest of the community is counting on you to remain engaged so that we can make the necessary changes. The one question that Mr. Cross had regarding the ADA and the hearing issue was originated from my conversation this morning at the coffee with the mayor regarding how we in Fairhaven, for the most part, try and get across Old State to a sidewalk in order to continue on to other parts of the community. And that involves us taking a right turn out of our community, walking towards the Clancy house. For the most part, this is what most people do. And they'll walk to a point where they can hopefully get across safely. But what happens is when you get to that point where you can get to the other side of the road, you can't see the southbound traffic coming down. So you actually, the adults, the teenagers that cross right there have learned to listen, not look for southbound traffic, because you can't see them. You can actually hear them before you can see them. And there's no crosswalk there. There's zero crosswalk to the other side of the Old State. So what we do is we get to that point, we listen, and we dart across Old State, hoping to make it to the other side. Obviously, that is so incredibly unsafe. I mean, the issue at Vintage Grove and the crosswalk there is very important. That's where my son got hit. But so much more dangerous is the situation right here in our community, closer to our community, where we're trying to dart across the road. It's significantly higher in danger than the crosswalk. So I was trying to, and I was grateful for what the councilwoman said about ADA possibilities and funding regarding that. But obviously not, I mean, it's so incredibly dangerous. Hopefully there will be others here, but that will talk about this issue also. But I'm grateful for Vintage Grove, the people there, and their passion about making improvements, because there's short-term improvements and there's long-term improvements. We totally understand that. But just because a long-term improvement was voted down twice by the East-West regional whatever, doesn't mean that the city of Wildwood can't address these short-term issues.
Mr. Collier.
Improve safety. I'm done. Thanks. Video, I guess.
I turned to be on mute, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Manning. Steve,
I will go ahead and remove, I'm going to try to put Mr. Rannick back as a
Okay,
as an attendee. I'm
Sure.
hopeful that I do this correctly. If I don't, Mr. Vanek, I apologize. You'll have to try to log back in. See if I can do that. I don't see the option to make him an attendee again. So I'm afraid I'm doing it wrong. Yeah, that's not what I want to do.
So Rick, if you click on his name, it says change role to attendee. Do you see that?
No, I don't see that.
All right, let me go ahead and let me
You can
do
do,
that.
yeah.
So
Okay, I see what you're doing. Okay, I
Yeah.
apologize.
not, okay, so I'll do that since I'm a co-host then.
So we have 3 other hands currently
Okay.
being shown. I think we have Tom Finley, I'm guessing, with Winding Trails HOA,
okay.
and Alice Corrigan and Kristen Umberhauer.
Umbenauer.
So Tom may have been next, I'm thinking, but he's at the top of the list if you want me to
Go. We'll just
remove.
go in the order as they appear. That's fine.
I'm going to move.
And I'm still seeing Mr. Vanek as a panelist.
Mhm.
Okay.
So is that Tom with us? Mr. Finley? Or is it somebody else?
I just tried to unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi. Is this, you want me to go ahead and speak?
Please.
That would be fine, yes.
I'm Tom Finley. I'm in Ward 4. I'm a trustee for Winding Trails Subdivision. And I just wanted to say thank you to Rick Brown and to the Public Safety Committee and anybody else that aided in getting some safety measures put up along Thunderhead Canyon Road. We met with Rick this summer, one of my trustees, Kathy Shiner, and then a trustee from our sister subdivision, the Villages of Winding Trails, and we discussed a speeding problem that a number of residents had brought to our attention. And we discussed the problem along with some solutions, and Rick was very attuned to all of that. So we adjourned our little meeting in the corner of the street and expected, possibly a couple of months or so, maybe we might see something happen, but we were rather astounded with the speed with which the city addressed our problem in the Public Safety Committee. And pretty soon we had some signs up and, some further awareness of the speeding problem. So I just wanted to salute Rick and his team and say thank you on behalf of our subdivisions and the residents along Thunderhead Canyon Road. And that's all I had to say tonight.
Well, thank you very much.
Tom, the check is in the mail. I'll make sure it gets to you.
Okay.
Just kidding, of course.
Yeah, unmarked bills, please.
Thank you for the kind words.
Plain bag.
We are going to talk about that issue. So,
I see that.
Tom, if you want to hang on, and if in case there's any questions, when we get to that agenda, that might be appropriate if you have time to do it. Otherwise, we'll try to move you back over as an attendee, if that's okay. right, and then if it's okay, I'll move Mr. Corrigan over.
Sure.
So Mr. Corrigan, if you want to make your comments.
Yes, I'll do that right now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to, I guess, share a brief story and perspective. I talked to Captain Mundell yesterday, and then also exchanged some emails with some council members and the mayor. He invited me to this meeting. About a month ago, I had an incident at near my home. I live off Waller's Creek Road by Babbler Park, and a neighbor nearby, we live in a wooded area, so it's kind of hard to tell who exactly, but they were shooting a loud firearm for about 1 to 2 hours. And it was very unnerving and kind of made my family feel uncomfortable. So I called the police. I said, hey, I'm not trying to rat anybody out, but would you mind going down the road, maybe telling them to knock it off, and feel uncomfortable, unsafe, and it's kind of obnoxious. And the police officer told me that, according to the Wildwood rules, that if you have 3 acres and you're within a certain distance from people or building, that you are free to discharge firearms. And I was a little bit upset. And so I communicated that to a couple of people, and they ended up for me invited in this meeting. I'm from the Navy. I spent a couple years, I deployed to the Middle East. I never was in combat, but I have experience with firearms. And just out of curiosity, before the meeting today, I messaged a couple friends and I said, hey, what is the safe distance in the Navy? When we were shooting, people that were still in, to shoot a firearm in the middle of the ocean. We look on radar, see if anybody's nearby, and to shoot a rifle, the distance is 4,000 yards away from anybody. And the ocean, you can see as far as the horizon, it's pretty wide open. And in Wildwood, it's 150 yards. So, and it's a wooded area. It's, a community. People live and eat and sleep here. And, just coming from my background, there's many perspectives on firearms. A lot of people are very passionate about it. They like hunting and using it for sport. And then for me, I used it or practice using it as a weapon. And so that's how I feel about it. And it's obviously geared towards public safety. And so I know I have measured expectations, I guess, but I wanted to share kind of my feelings and my story, because I know just talking to neighbors, some people do like it. It's part of the charm, I guess, of Wildwood, but other people feel a little bit uncomfortable and unnerved that there's firearms being discharged near their home. And one solution, I guess maybe a step in the right direction, is, 3 acres is a very small area to, I guess, discharge firearms. In the Navy, it's 4,000 yards is almost 2 miles. That might be a little bit too much to ask, to politically move anything through. But in Chesterfield, for example, they have a rule of 10 acres. 10-acre lots are probably less common in Chesterfield than they are in Wildwood. But I would think, as far as making Wildwood a safer place, maybe a more inviting place to live, make people feel more comfortable, maybe we could match Chesterfield's area. That's just an idea. But I just wanted to communicate my concern about local firearm usage and how it kind of makes people feel, making Wildwood an inviting or disinviting place to live. And just wanted to share my perspective, and hopefully you guys take it to heart.
Thank you very much, Mr. Corrigan.
Well, thank you.
All right, we last have, I believe Kristen has still got her hand up, so I'm going to vote her over if that's okay.
Please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you for taking my comments. So I am a resident of Vintage Grove, and I just wanted to speak up regarding basically all of the same comments that Jim provided earlier regarding the crosswalk that is at Old State Road just next to Vintage Grove. I'm one of the residents there. Myself and several others use that crosswalk daily. We walk our elementary school children to and from Ridge Meadows Elementary School, which is just across Old State. And the crosswalk, it's very unsafe. We struggle with it daily. Cars fly by in that intersection. We have actually purchased our own stop signs to use in crossing at that same crosswalk that Jim's son Brock got hit at. We had to purchase those on our own, and even with those stop signs, cars don't stop for us. They speed by, they go quickly. It's hard to see us. It's a very dangerous intersection. And so I second everything that Jim said. We need to have some short-term solutions, and those need to happen sooner rather than later. I know, I think the latest that I heard was it was slated to have some pedestrian lighted signs be installed within 6 months. And 6 months is a really long time for a short-term solution. I think we need to have some short-term solutions that need to come sooner than that. And that's just the short term. There's definitely a lot that needs to be done in that area, in that intersection, to improve safety for the area. But at least for the short term, I would just urge that things happen sooner rather than later. 6 months seems like a very long time for the folks that literally use that crosswalk 2 times a day. So that's just my urge. I'm hopeful that we can see some progress quickly. Appreciate your time and letting me speak. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So that, I don't see any other hands of any of the attendees. Well, there one, Mr. Vanek put his hand up again, but I don't know that we typically allow 2 comments.
No, we do not.
But I don't see any other hands raised at this point. Mr. Marshall?
Okay. All right, then. And again, thank you, everybody, for your participation. We do take all the comments to heart, and I applaud you for taking the time to speak with us. I appreciate it very much. So moving on, actually, the next item on our agenda is the discussion of the crosswalk at Old State Road. So Rick, you want to, I know we have a memo.
Yeah, hopefully you have my memo. I think what I might do actually is share my screen because I think it does help, although some of the maybe be careful doing that because I don't know if I can get my graphics to orient with the screen either. So might be too much high tech on my end. But as you've heard some comments already this evening from Mr. Vanek and the resident in Vintage Grove, there was a crash that occurred on Old State Road at the crosswalk immediately south of Ridge Road, and I did put some photos in my memorandum to try to show you the location of it. Let me see if I can do this real quick. I think I should be able to figure it out. Let's do this. Now, are you seeing my graphic on your screen?
Yes.
Efficiently? Okay. So I'm showing Exhibit A, which is of my memo. If you reference the memo, it shows the location of the crosswalk. It's between Ridge Road and Vintage Grove. subdivision essentially, and that's the location that the school kids are crossing to go to the elementary school down Ridge Road. And that's where Mr. Vanek's son was struck on his bicycle. Again, the incident occurred. Fortunately, Mr. Vanek's son was not seriously hurt. We're all glad to hear that, certainly. Just some background, the crosswalk went in 2017. It was part of a Wildwood project. And what we did is installed a temporary asphalt sidewalk along the north side of Old State Road. And it ties back further to the south to get a continuous sidewalk basically to Ridge Meadow School and the trail that we have there as well. So the actual installation of the crosswalk went in with the City of Wildwood project. Now the road, Old State, of course, is a county road, so it's under the county's jurisdiction and their maintenance. So the crosswalk itself is is under the county's jurisdiction. The sidewalk is actually maintained by the City of Wildwood. So I did want to mention that the city limit is just north of the crosswalk. So then we've talked about this maybe previously. The intersection with Ridge Road at Old State is actually in the city of Ellisville, but the crosswalk itself is just within the city limits of Wildwood. And the speed limit on that section of Old State is 40 miles an hour. So I'm going to move forward. These are some of the photographs that I pulled right off of Google Maps. Recently, these are from the summer. Frankly, they're very, very new. That shows the crosswalk in question. So the first one was looking in the southbound direction. And I think some of the confusion that I had, and Mr. Vanek kind of cleared that up, is he was talking about his subdivision, which is Fairhaven, which is further to the south. It's a different location than this crosswalk, but that's where he's also very concerned about, clearly, as having the ability to cross safely over Old State Road at Fairhaven, but that's not this location. That's further to the south. I don't know the exact distance, maybe 1,000 feet, 1,200 feet, something like that. So just be clear on that if you don't mind. So in the aftermath of the incident, we have had some contact with Mr. Vanek. He's been in touch with St. Louis County, and we did have a meeting that Mr. Cross was at as well on November 19th, just last week, that included St. Louis County as well as City of Wildwood and Ellisville. So representing the county, Councilmember Mark Harder was at that meeting as well as his administrative assistant. We had the acting director with St. Louis County Department of Transportation, Stephanie Leon Streeter. And then we had the Ellisville Mayor, Mike Romerman, as well as their city administrator, Bill Schwer. So it was a very good meeting, and we were intent of discussing the issue of the crosswalk and what we can be doing, what we can do short-term and potentially long-term to make it a safer crossing for folks at that location. On the short term, well, on the immediate front, and Captain Mundell can certainly talk about this. I understand that we have placed some LED radar signs on Old State Road. Both the Wildwood Precinct and the City of Ellisville Police have done that, I believe, to flash the speed of vehicles as they pass through that area. So I think that has been done immediately, and that came out of our meeting with the discussions we had amongst the parties. So Captain can speak to that if that's not the case. Otherwise, short term, we are looking at the potential to install rapid flashing beacons at the crosswalk. Those are the flashing lights that we have installed in the City of Wildwood. I think you might be familiar with them. We have them on the crosswalks on Manchester Road. We have them on the crosswalk on Taylor, between essentially north of Main Street up to Route 100, that crosswalk in that location. And there's some along 109, along the Wildwood Greenway along 109 at Pond Rover Loop Road, and a couple of other spots. So we are looking at the possibility of installing those. They are a little expensive. The cost, we think, is around $20,000 to install those for both directions of traffic. St. Louis County is not opposing that. They are okay with that. And based on the discussions we've had thus far, I believe they're willing to split the cost with us for the upfront installation. So Department of Public Works is moving forward to develop a plan, and get some bids for the installation and coordinate further with St. Louis County on potentially getting them installed as soon as possible. And I hope that we can certainly do it. And I expect that if the city takes the lead, we can do it in shorter fashion than 6 months. So we're going to make it a priority to move that forward as fast as we can. I think at this point, I'm gonna stop. And if Mr. Cross wants to add anything that I've missed, or Captain Mundell, I'm gonna defer to one or both of those gentlemen, if that's okay.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I will jump in since I have been in direct contact with not only Mr. Vanek, but with Councilman Mark Harder. Spoke with Mark as recent as yesterday. So Mr. Brown is correct. I've asked to fast track this issue. Those immediate feedback speed signs were put up the very next day from the meeting that Rick referenced. The city of Wildwood put ours, city of Wildwood within our city limits, which is in the northbound lane, and the city of Ellisville the very next day then put their sign in the southbound lane. So that has been noticed by the residents in that area, and it's been expressed that the appreciation. It's also been noted that they have noticed a higher patrolling of that stretch, and thank you to Captain Mundell for doing that. I have asked Rick to provide cost information as well as timing to see about installing those flashing crosswalk signs at that intersection. Those are very, very effective. We have them at several locations throughout the city of Wildwood, primarily on Taylor Road and on Manchester Road, and they are activated by the person who wants to enter use that crosswalk, and cars can see those flashing lights from quite a distance. And there's one on Ridge Road as well near the school. So they are effective, but as Rick said, they're somewhat expensive. So Rick is working with his counterpart at the county, Stephanie, the acting director of Public Works. I updated Councilman Harder yesterday in terms of where we are on things, and he and I will be speaking again on Monday or Tuesday of next week because we are trying to keep this thing moving forward. His director of Public Works at that meeting that Rick referenced did say it might be 6 months. Both Mr. Harder and I believe that it could be done sooner, and we're going to push to get that done. They have asked about some cost sharing. Mayor Bolin is considering that, but Mr. Brown did point out that this road is maintained by St. Louis County. So we'll have to see how that comes out. But we're looking at various alternatives. I mean, again, there's various types of those flashing signs. Some are actually less expensive than others. So Mr. Brown's working on that for me. I hope to see those numbers either tomorrow or beginning of next week. That's something we have to go out to bid for. And there's no easements that are necessary. So we are hopeful that, that we can cut through any red tape that might exist and get this done. I will also say that conversation not only addressed the immediate concern with this crosswalk, but we also talked about the entirety of Old State Road. We discussed the roundabout at Ridge Road and Old State Road. As you all may be aware of, we did apply for funding with East West Gateway to put a roundabout at that area, which primarily is, as Rick pointed out, in the city limits of Ellisville. There's a small segment that is part of Wildwood, but be that as it may, even though there was going to be a cost share between Ellisville and Wildwood, the East West Gateway did not view that intersection as a high priority from a safety concern and therefore did not award funds. We are, however, going to reapply for that, and I think the deadline to do that is sometime in February. Early February, around the 10th or so. So I've asked Mr. Brown to prepare a package, and we will again apply for funding for that. There's also another project that has actually been approved by the county. I'm sorry, not by the county, but by the council of Wildwood for a shared use path. And that, what that will do is that will take the sidewalk that, yeah, as you can see in this picture here, this exhibit B, I guess. So on the, what would be, I guess, the west side. So at that side, so Rick, if you use your cursor and show where that sidewalk, so that sidewalk goes down just a little bit and then terminates. The shared use path project, then it will take that sidewalk and then continue to the south, all the way to, I guess, Old Fairway, so that folks can walk all the way from that school all the way to this point here, which would also include a crosswalk at Fairhaven that Mr. Vanek was talking about. So that project is on the books. I believe that project right now is slated for construction in perhaps the 2024 timeframe. Something that Mr. Brown could correct me if I'm wrong, but in about 2024 is when we would actually begin that. I think next year or so we'll begin the engineering and so forth, and then construction to start thereafter. So there are plans underway for the short term, the medium term, as well as the long term to address the issues on Old State Road. And we have cooperation from St. Louis County, from the city of Ellisville, as well as the city of Wildwood to do so. Our immediate concern, though, I want to come back and say that we are addressing that crosswalk. We believe that we can get something done as quickly as we did by putting up those speed limit feedback signs and get a signalized crosswalk there in something shorter than 6 months. But as we like to say, we'd like to under promise and over deliver. So that would be on the long end in terms of 6 months, but we truly believe that we can get it done sooner than that. And as I say, this is something that is very, very important to Mayor Boland and to Councilman Harder. And so they have both given me marching orders to make sure that this gets done as quickly as possible so that we can ensure the safety of all the residents using that crosswalk and going to the school. And so this is a high priority, and we take the safety of the children and any pedestrian trying to cross Old State very, very seriously.
Thank you, Steve. Dave, I saw your hand up first, and then Vince, I'll get to you.
Yeah. Quick question, maybe two quick questions. And do the children who live in Vintage Grove or on that side of on the Wildwood side of Old State, did they have bus service to the Ridge Elementary prior to this COVID, or were they always in the walking distance?
I'll start with to answer that, and then I think the captain maybe even can jump in. It's my understanding that bus service is offered to the residents in Vintage Grove. However, it's my understanding that some of the residents have chosen not to use the bus service. But I would defer to the captain. He may have some more information about that. But that is my understanding, that they do have an option that even though they live within the mile range, bus service is being offered to the students within Vintage Grove. I don't know if the captain is there. Mr. Collier, with your permission, perhaps the captain may add to that.
Absolutely.
Same for me, Steve. That was my understanding that they were, to back up, Rockwood School District at the beginning of this year, due to shortages with staffing, elected to have a program or a policy where if you lived within a mile of the school, they did not have bus service provided to those residents, feeling that they were close enough to get to school faster, by foot. So this obviously falls within that. But beyond that, I don't know what the reticence were offered there or not. But I heard the same thing that Steve reported there.
I had a conversation, if I can jump in,
Please.
with the school principal, and she had indicated that they have offered bus service to those residents. I think there was, so I read between the lines that they were concerned about this very issue and may have made an exception to allow it. I could be wrong in saying that, but that's kind of what I gathered.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Marshall. I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that this committee support the expedition of signalization of this crosswalk across Old State Road. Get it done as soon as possible.
Very good. There's a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion to support this, the expeditious production of safety measures? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of supporting the expeditious measures proposed, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will make every attempt to get this done just as quickly as we can. Per Mr. Loyal's motion here. We were going to do that anyway. So, but this formalizes it, and hopefully the residents on the call understand and realize that we take this very seriously, and we're not going to do any foot dragging or anything like that. We're going to get it done just as quickly as we can. So thank you to this board for providing the support and the impetus for us to get this thing done. And Mr. Brown and I, and working with Mr. Harder and working with the director at St. Louis County, can get this done quickly.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's very important that we get this done expeditiously. So moving on to old business, Thunderhead Canyon. Rick, I know you had to follow up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Board members, this is definitely falling under old business. It's been in front of you a number of times here recently and in prior years, but this is back on the agenda as a follow-up from your last meeting. And at that time, we talked or presented to you a traffic engineering proposal from Lockmuller to potentially do some initial traffic studies on Thunderhead Canyon. And there was discussion from the board, and ultimately, I don't know if it was a formal motion or not, but I think we agreed we would bring this back to you with some feedback from the trustees of the subdivisions involved. So with that in mind, I did reach out to at least the two HOAs that I'd worked with, and Mr. Finley spoke earlier on the public comment portion. So it's Winding Trails and the Villages of Winding Trails. So Kathy Shiner and Mr. Finley are with Winding Trails, and then Dave Rosen McGinnis is with the Village of Winding Trails. And for the most part, I think it was fair to say they were satisfied. And I think Mr. Finley expressed that with the changes that were made. And I gather they really aren't hearing from residents any negative comments at this point. And when I flat out asked if they felt it was necessary for us to go forward with the traffic engineering study, they were pretty unanimous in saying they didn't feel we should spend the money, frankly, at this point in time. So I think if you wanted to talk to Mr. Finley, I think he's still with us, and we could certainly arrange that if you want to ask any questions directly to him. But otherwise, I was very pleased, frankly, with the response we were getting from both HOAs. So I think with that, I'll turn it over for any questions. We still do have the proposal from Lockmuller if there's desire to move forward in any way on that study.
Any questions? Yeah, Chris, please.
This one maybe I think might be best answered by Captain Mundell. In kind of looking at some of the enhanced patrolling and some of the kind of just surveillance we've had of the area, have your officers yielded any feedback in terms of, people they don't seem to be seen much, they've been, they've had a number of stops. What have you folks been seeing kind of there on the ground?
Well, first off, positive, obviously, when the officers are up there, they do get feedback from, from the residents and appreciation of them being there. We're not getting we're not getting a lot of violations, if any, actually.
Great.
The presence is part of that. I think those feedback signs help somewhat. But that's where it stands. It's not producing tickets as you would expect, I guess, or what was being expected, I should say.
Sure. Oh, no, that's great. That's great feedback from both you as well as in the community to say they're not even necessarily for spending the money. So that's great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, well, I'm glad things have improved. I'm sure we'll be keeping an eye on that situation. So moving on in the agenda, new business, the Fire Glow Drive discussion of the calming island.
Board members, I think I may share my screen as well on this one because I think the visuals that are included in my memo probably help a little bit. If you haven't seen the memo or haven't seen the pictures, I think they help a lot. So I'm going to share my screen if that's okay.
Please.
So this next item relates to the subdivision, the villages of Brightleaf, which is on the northeast corner of 109 and 100. I'm sure you're fairly familiar with the subdivision. It's 192 homes, I believe. Started construction in 2018, and it's almost complete. At this point in time, we're getting close to doing final inspections and then corrections, and hopefully we'll take the streets over sometime in 2022 and wrap that subdivision completely up. When we developed the plans for the subdivision, we tried to incorporate some traffic calming measures because there was a concern from day one between Joe Vunich and myself about cut through traffic on Taylor Road, and that was the primary concern, frankly. And that's why we have, as we've shown on Exhibit B, we actually incorporated 2 roundabouts into what is Taylor Road. It used to be Atherton Road, which runs along the south side of the development and meanders up to the kind of the west, northwest. So we have 2 roundabouts that we incorporated into the design on Taylor Road to slow traffic. And then we actually, a little more subtle, there's actually 2 full width speed humps that are at crosswalk locations that are out there as well. And I think by and large, they've been well received. I've not heard any negative comments about it, frankly. I'll mention something about that later. We also looked at potentially doing other traffic calming islands, and the more this has come up, my memory is being refreshed because it was some time ago when we developed the plans, but we were very interested at the time when we developed the plans to implement some traffic calming islands. And in particular, we looked at maybe all the side road connections, putting in traffic calming islands in the median. And we kind of backed off on that idea and decided to be a little less aggressive. And we ended up with just 1 traffic calming island in addition to the other 4 features, and that was at Fire Glow Drive. And Fire Glow Drive is a loop towards the northwest side of the subdivision. And so we have a small traffic calming island, and the idea was to try to slow traffic as it entered and left that subdivision. And the island in the median is mountable, and it's relatively small, and more or less it's about 15 feet in length and 5 feet in width. So the idea is a normal passenger car should be able to drive around it reasonably at normal speeds. And it was intended to be sloped on the side, which it is, and it was intended not to be more than 3 inches in height, which should not pose a problem to passenger cars and most certainly trucks. Now, we have gotten complaints about it. One of the trustees for the HOA has contacted us, and I think he was intending to provide public comment tonight, Mr. Pidcock. And he's said that residents have driven over it. They're not satisfied with it. And you can clearly see that it has been driven over multiple times.
Mhm.
I think the last photo I show is, you can see that some of the, I'm assuming some of the larger vehicles have scraped it and so forth. Because we would expect the larger trucks probably would have to potentially cross over it. And I say larger trucks, I'm talking moving vans, things like that.
Right.
So the more we looked at this, basically the trustee has indicated they would like the city to remove the island. When we looked into this a little more carefully, we did find out that it was constructed to a height of about 4 to 5 inches above the adjacent pavement. And it was specified in the plans to be no more than 3 inches. So it's clearly constructed higher than we intended. And I think that's a lot of the issue, frankly, is that it's just higher than it really should be. In response to the complaints, we did stripe the perimeter of it. And that's one thing I was trying to show with you. With the photographs, we put the stripes in around the outside of it. We actually put reflectors on each nose of the island as well. So it does look a little better as far as visibility. So I would think people would be more likely not to have issues with it. But that doesn't mean, when it's snowy or whatnot, it could be less than visible at times. So the question that's been raised is, shall we remove it? And I think when I consider all the aspects of this, it clearly should be lowered at a minimum to 3 inches. But I think if we're going to go to the effort of lowering it, I think I'd recommend at this point probably just removing it, given the minimal benefits I think that we're seeing with it. I just don't want to spend the money to lower it to 3 inches and then have this an issue 6 months, a year down the road and come back to you with the same problem. So given the minimal benefits, I guess I'm of the opinion we should probably just move forward and remove the island. And that would be something we would have the developer do as we close out the subdivision. So it would essentially be on their dime. And I think with the fact it wasn't constructed per plan, we've got some grounds to make them just frankly remove it. So I think that's the recommendation. And I guess at this point, I'm going to turn it over for any questions, but I think we would like to get the board to act on this and potentially make a motion. So Steve, I see your hand up. Do you have something you want to add to it?
Only when you're finished, sir.
I think I'm finished for now.
Okay. Well, thank you. I just wanted to just kind of provide just a little bit more information about how this was brought to the city. This gentleman that Mr. Brown referred to, Mr. Pitcock, Chuck Pitcock, does live on Fireglow Drive and has come to the Coffee with the Mayor on multiple occasions. And has been pretty vocal about, asking us to remove that island, has indicated that many of his neighbors feel the same way, although we've not heard from them. We've only heard from Mr. Pitcock, but I have no reason to doubt, that others are concerned about it. But he has indicated that, multiple vehicles are getting hung up on it. He's indicated to us that at the Coffee with the Mayor that police vehicles have hit it and so forth. I've not gotten confirmation from Captain Mundell that any police vehicles were damaged driving over that. Mr. Pitcock did come. He came to see me tonight because he thought the meeting was in person. And when I explained to him that it was a Zoom meeting, he said, I don't do Zoom. So I did offer to provide feedback to him personally as a result of what comes out of tonight's meeting. He did mention that another incident occurred on Thanksgiving night where, the way he described it in his words, there was boom, 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 somebody driving over this island. I have had multiple conversations with Mr. Brown and Mr. Vunich about, trying to get an understanding in terms of why here, and it's only on the one, as you saw in Rick's drawing. There are two entrances on this Fireglow, but this particular island is only on one entrance. The initial thinking was that it was going to keep vehicles coming. So if you are, if you're the way the visual on the screen right now. So if you were at that stop sign, exiting Fireglow onto what's that road there in front of it, Rick?
Taylor.
Taylor.
So if you're there, so if a car is coming from the right, okay, and if you don't have that island, the car will kind of cut the corner short, and and I guess the thought was, somebody might take the nose off of your car if they cut that angle short. By having the island, it forces them to go a little bit wider and make the turn for those that are sitting there at that stop sign, just as we're looking at it right now. But at the end of the day, Mr. Vunich nor Mr. Brown were able to provide any convincing information to me that says to retain that island. In particular, particularly since it was built not of specs that were designed and so forth. So it's not really, if it isn't really serving the purpose, and in fact is causing heartache, then I would support Mr. Brown's recommendation to remove that. But keep in mind that the potential exists that once that's removed and cars are sitting there at that stop sign, and then all of a sudden now you got people complaining that cars are cutting in front of them and cutting the turn short. You can't please everybody all the time, but I just wanted to share how this all came about, and this is something Mr. Pitcock says that the folks that live on Firegrove are very passionate about, is that this island is not necessary.
Okay, thank you. Dave, please.
Yeah, I would like to make the motion that that the city require the developer to remove this calming device at their expense, and do so as quickly as possible before we close it out. And that's my motion, and hopefully I can get a second. As an aside, Chuck Pitcock drives a Corvette, so he's sort of the worst case scenario for going low, and so he is the true test of, is that too high, and in his
Sure.
case it definitely is.
Sure.
I second the motion.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Do I hear any discussion? Obviously, the motion is in support of the plan to remove the traffic calming island. Hearing no questions, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no. Hearing none, motion passes.
And with this board's permission, I will personally call Mr. Pitcock this evening and give him the good news and make his day for him, if you're okay with that. I will do that before I leave the office.
Absolutely, for he and his Corvette.
And his Corvette. Well, he has to give me a ride in his Corvette.
There you go. Fair enough.
Thank you all.
No, thank you.
Steve.
Okay, moving on, we have the proposed legislation regarding vehicle prowling and tampering. And I know, Rick, you sent out an email with the county rule on it, and I thank you for that.
Yes, I don't know if Steve wants to take this or not, or Mr. Captain Mundell, but I did send you the ordinance, I guess the draft ordinance that Steve had provided me that the county has come up with, and I don't know where they stand, if they've actually approved that or not. But I think we're trying to move forward with similar legislation in the city of Wildwood to address some of the more recent concerns we've had. So I'll let Steve or Captain jump in and.
Well, I'll go ahead and
Okay.
I'll provide a little bit of information, and then the captain can provide information as well. But yes, the county has started this process, legislation to provide stiffer penalties for two situations. One, lifting of door handles, to make that a crime with stiffer penalties. And then secondly, riding in a stolen vehicle, just being a passenger in a stolen vehicle, increasing the penalties on that. It appears that many municipalities are adopting the same type of legislation. The mayor spoke to the captain and I, and to John Young, the city attorney, and wants to implement the same type of legislation. So the city attorney is taking the county's legislation and tailoring it to the city of Wildwood. It will be on the agenda for the December 13th council meeting. The mayor wants that to happen. And so that's what's happening, and why it is up for, in front of you all. Captain, would you like to add anything else to that?
Sure. First off, the two ordinances are a tool for the police department. the first item of checking car handles. Obviously, there's no purpose for someone to walk down the street checking car handles of vehicles that he doesn't know the people, he doesn't live there. That's become a method of theft. They're looking for unlocked cars. If there's a key in it, they're gonna take the car, and that's been what we've experienced. So this is something that before really wasn't illegal, because if all you did was open a car door, you didn't break in, and if you didn't steal anything, there was no crime. But it's the pattern of checking multiple cars in a row. Obviously, there's a purpose to that, and the purpose is to look for something to steal. So this is basically new ground that was brought forward by Councilman Fitch and Councilman Harder. Councilman Fitch was a previous county police chief, so coming up with the idea and getting it out there. Mayor Boland took that to heart very quickly, because we've had these issues here in Wildwood, and he recognized the need for us to have those tools to address it. So that was the first one. The second one, that it's called tampering, and part of the state statute of tampering is riding in a stolen vehicle. Typically, that would be charged by the prosecuting attorney's office at the state level. However, it's a misdemeanor, and generally the prosecutor's office will not prosecute misdemeanors. So it's natural that there's an ordinance in place to allow a prosecution to occur, and that's pretty much standard. Minor assault cases are covered by state statute, but having an ordinance at the municipal level ensures that those things are prosecuted. So these are two tools, like I said, that give us some ability to stop people, arrest people, and bring them to court for being involved in these types of situations. So certainly appreciate the mayor moving this forward very quickly, and would appreciate the support of the Public Safety Board in passing this on or moving this forward to the council.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so in what I hear, and Vince, I do see your hand, so I'll get to you in a sec. I see that it provides you with greater flexibility. I will note that I saw in the news last night, I believe the city of Eureka just passed an ordinance similar to this as well. Vince, please.
Just procedurally, I'm going to make a motion to support both of these. Can we support a motion for an ordinance that hasn't yet been approved, or whatever, by whatever means the language needs to be? I would make a motion that we support both of these, even though the ordinance hasn't been approved by the county as of yet.
I think in this sense, what we're being asked to do is offer support to the general idea as outlined by the proposed county rule, which my understanding the city attorney is using to base the upcoming city ordinance proposal.
That's my motion then.
Okay, very good. We have a motion. Do we have a second? See a second from Mr. Preston. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of supporting the proposed tampering ordinance, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, please say no. Hearing none, it is unanimous, and our support is so noted.
Thank you.
No, thank you for bringing it up. I think it's very important.
Marshall, there
I
was
do
a
think it's
second-
important to note that the rule is written in such a way that it's not just, one car, it's successive movement by people.
Marshall, there's two ordinances there actually.
Yeah.
One
Oh,
one
okay.
was for like prowling, and the other one is for tampering. So it's two separate ordinances, but you captured it there. So
My understanding is the motion would have applied to both. But if we need to clarify that, we'll have two.
I would make a motion that we support the prowling ordinance.
I'll second that.
There we go. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we will call for a vote. All those in favor of the second ordinance, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, it is unanimous. And our support of both is on the record.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you. All right, what is next? Oh, I believe we're at the end. We have no items ready for further action. We're on to other. I'll ask if anyone has anything for the good of the group. Mr. Bertolino.
Yeah, just a quick clarification, and for those who are listening, and this is an ordinance issue. When we heard from Alex Morgan earlier, and he was talking about firearms and shooting on 3 acres. Captain Mundell or Steve, doesn't that only apply if you are west of 109?
That is correct.
If you're east of 109, it's a restriction. You cannot shoot a firearm east of 109. Am I remembering correctly?
I believe you are, sir.
And I assumed I didn't get where Alex lived. He must be west of 109.
Yes,
Did anybody pick up? Is that true?
yes.
Okay. All right. Just for clarification. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order?
Mr. Collier,
Yes,
do you have anything?
I do. I was waiting for everyone else.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that we did
Yeah,
not.
no cowardice.
All right.
So just a moment of personal privilege, just to let you know that I have informed the mayor that I will need to be resigning this position by the end of the year. I have been here for what, 2 years now. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. It has been a most interesting experience, rather gratifying, I must say. But my work life is changing, and so it's requiring a little bit more of my attention and potential travel. And the conflicts are getting to the point where, if I can't do both well, something's got to give. So, and they pay the bills. So I'm having to resign this position. I'm really sorry because they gave me a cool badge. So, but Jim, I will be returning that. So never did get that horse I was promised though.
I had no idea.
Yeah, kind of how it goes.
Scott, if I may, just during the short time I've been on the committee, thank you so much for your leadership and guidance during this process. So thank you for your service.
No, thank you. No, it was actually a pleasure, and I really did enjoy it, and I appreciate everybody on the board, your passion, your dedication, and the fact that you care so much about the city, that you care to give of your time. I know I spoke personally to Steve and Rick and expressed my appreciation for them as well. Michelle, you too. It's been great. So I know you guys will move on. I have recommended somebody based on conversations I had with Captain Mundell. I have recommended someone to the mayor, so we'll see how that goes.
Mr. Collier,
I appreciate all the time.
I'd like to say that you will be missed from this board. Certainly, as part of my job, I sit in on every committee, every board, every task force. So but yeah, so I see a lot of them, and I will say that the way you have conducted the business of this board and how you get through the agenda and how professional you have been, you are right up there at the top in terms of the efficiency of this board and getting things done in a professional manner and a timely manner. You are a template for anyone else to follow in terms of how to run a meeting. And so we are all very grateful of how you have handled yourself and the business of this board. And so I personally want to thank you for everything that you've done for the city. It's been most appreciated.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome. I wish I'd known that was coming, because I would have had my wife in the room so she could hear someone say I'm efficient and get things done in a timely manner. So she would disagree greatly.
Yeah.
It's probably recorded, so you might be able to still do that.
Yeah.
I would second that. What Mr. Cross said. We appreciated your efforts, and you've been very good in the position in the role.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
So this is your last meeting then, I guess.
Looks like it. but I may appear just to ask questions and annoy you. No, that's great. And you know, it's you know, I know we had a few people talking tonight, and it's unfortunate with COVID because you know, we didn't get to see the folks face to face. But you know, I think it's important for the public to have an opportunity to, you know, speak their mind and you know, make the city aware of the things that concern them. You know, be it a crosswalk, and those are important things, right? They're the day-to-day things. So you guys do important work here, and I know that will continue. And wish you the best.
Mr. Collier, thank you for your service to the city. It is most appreciated, sir.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. The applause is for you. Seriously, group effort. So, all right. Well, I guess it's time to adjourn. Never did get a gavel either. Oh, wait, no, that was in the council chambers. Yeah, that's right. So, without objection. Yep, Vince.
Motion to adjourn.
Awesome. Awesome. Chris, you were very quick to do that. So I know we got things to go do. In fact, I'm going to a concert apparently. So here we go.
Hopefully you're gonna make it.
Some group. Oh yeah. Yeah. Old Dominion or something. I don't know. My wife said we're going. What do I know? I'll have a few beers. It'll be good. So Dave, did you go to Truman State?
No, but my oldest granddaughter, Maggie, just graduated this last June.
Oh, very good.
And, has a very good job. And my next oldest granddaughter, Ellie, is a sophomore.
Nice.
And my next oldest granddaughter, Lucy, has applied and will probably go there next year.
Well, it's a great school. Our eldest son
It
went
is.
there. So
Yeah.
Our oldest son went there as well. And it's a
Yep.
great school.
They had a good time. They're having a good time, had a good time.
yep. Sam
So I
said
have
the
to
same
fly
thing.
that plane.
He referred to Kirksville as K Vegas. So, you know, take that for what it's worth.